So today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about Pam, and I'm not going to talk about. We want to talk about something a little bit unique that I think fits a little bit more into what is happening in the market. As the title says, rise above the noise, zero trust. Kind of what the keynote started today that was very important that you saw this morning, right? Privileges, about security from computers. I want to kind of close off the day based on the same concept. There was a very interesting thing that was said this morning by almost both of the presenters. Passwordless, right, administration, computers are getting very, very good at security, right? Security has been going better and better as we move forward. But there's also one thing that keeps changing. So, and we always have something. Thank you. So let's try this one more time. So today I'm going to talk about something different. I was thinking very long time about this presentation. Last year when I came here, I just started at Delinea. And when I started, I was basically very still corporate. This year, after getting to know the partners, the customers, and the regions and everything, I kind of figured out I wanted to do something different. So we talked about this, and instead of telling customers what, I wanted to raise these questions. And these are questions that come up almost all the time, right? What is the current status of identities and privileges? It seems to change every single time. So I want to we'll talk about that, what the market is. How do compliance and regulations affect? We've all heard about all of these new compliances. Every company now has to follow everything. So today I'm going to kind of cover that. Can we really control access? Right, we have identities. Today at Keynote, it was talked about access and access to the memory, to the kernel, to everything. But can we do it to every single person? And how do we do this? Does MFA actually work? Right, everybody's seen all the hacks, how somebody already hacked MFA, you can intercept it, and does MFA actually work? So how does Delinea see PAN landscape? And this one will be kind of the last question, so we'll leave it, and hopefully we'll take questions and start a conversation. But today we also we're going to do a live demo. So I don't want to jinx anything from Bill Gates, if you remember, if anybody's old enough, 1998, blue screen of death. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, at least I'll be famous like him, hopefully one day. So what is the current status of identities and privileges, right? And privileges, it's not just PAM. The very interesting stat, and I'm not a big fan of stats, but I changed this slide today after keynote because this one focuses on what the keynote was said today. Computers are getting more smarter, right? We have API, we have everything, we have better security. Microsoft is doing all these great things. We heard this today, and it's true. But we have 85% of cyber attacks still start with the endpoint. So endpoint is still the biggest problem that we have. It's not just the hardware, it's the user. How many times from your company do you do training for your HR, sales, IT people? How do we do proper training for every single person? Don't click on those links. How many times do we do that? Every single year, right? We have to do compliance every single year for proper training. And that's the difference. So, a few more stats. And again, privilege management, because we want to put a landscape on this. 80% of breaches involve privilege accounts, right? We're going to have CVEs, we're going to have compromise on the hardware, we're going to have it in the memory. But that stuff is going to get cleaned up. Code is going to get better. Yes, it's going to get ugly, as he said first, but it's going to get better. But it's basically still going to be privilege accounts, identities. And identities are not just username and password. It's APIs, it's everything. It's our secrets. 85, as I mentioned, from endpoints. And another one from Microsoft. And this is actually a funny one because it actually says exactly what he was talking about this morning. 96 of critical vulnerabilities is if we remove local accounts. If we could just get rid of every single local account on Microsoft, we basically, 96%, Microsoft says this. And it's actually true. Because then all of a sudden, but how do you make people work? You need local admins, you need guides, you need every single thing. So what I want to talk about today is how we're going to show privilege, and we're going to showcase a use case that privileges exist everywhere. and it was going to be a different transition, as I always do differently. Mareike is going to show us a quick demo on what a business case looks like on privileges from a user point of view. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Delinea has kind of a solution. It's called Remote Access Services, and we like to call it RAS. So it's a solution where you can access basically your core infrastructure from everywhere at every time without sacrificing any security or compliance. So yeah, we know we are all at vacation or at this beautiful conference like today, and just imagine, yeah, your boss calls you and says, hey, can you quickly check if you have access to this one Linux machine? So this is kind of what I want to show you how to do it, and fingers crossed that it works because it's live. Yes, so it needs to be access to your core infrastructure, to the Linux machine from everywhere. It needs to be easy and straightforward, and it has to be with MFA, so every step needs to be controlled. And yeah, so let's switch. So in fact, it's VPN-less, so I will just open up my browser, and it runs on a modern browser, and you don't need any SSH or RDP clients, and I will just log in here. All right, so first challenge, of course, my password. And then I got some flexibility here, so you can prepare some MFA profiles. So I can choose, but I will go for the first one and just use the Authenticator app on my app. All right, so here I approve. And yeah, so this is the portal where you can centrally access all your assets. And it is in the context of the account that I'm using, so keep in mind it's a row-based access control concept behind it, so you can limit the access. It's all about zero trust and least privilege, but here you get kind of a good overview. And as I said before, the main thing is that it's very straightforward and easy to use. So in this case, we just switched to the assets, so a list of all the machines I, with this account, have access to. Those 4, in fact. And I want to access this Linux machine, so I would just hit the rocket. And I have the option between using a vaulted account. So vaulting is kind of the traditional component of our solution. It's in the background. You can centrally store all your privileged accounts. It takes care of it. It manages them, password rotation, all that kind of stuff. Or I can just enter it manually, and that's what I do here. And the cool thing about it is that I am actually using an AD account. So we have an AD integration, so I can access the Linux machine with an AD account. And I will go ahead. So it's a browser-based SSH session, and I automatically got logged into the Linux machine. So a second tab opened where it's running in, and this is, every step is recorded. And yeah, I said earlier I want to check if I can access it, and okay, check. And I want to know, okay, what can I do on this endpoint? Because you need to make sure that people are just authorized to do the stuff that they should do according to their job. And I can just type in one comment, the info. All right. And then you kind of get all the information about the Delinea solution in the background, what I can do with this AD account on that specific machine. All right. Log out again. And I just close the tab and cancel. So it's just as easy as this. launch the session, do the job, and log off again. So kind of the main message is here, you can do everything with being compliant.
Compliance, right? So switch us back. So here what Mareike just showed is very important. Linux machines, easy AD integration into it, where we can, from conference, any kiosk, log in exactly into the machine. The beauty of this is that's step one. You can also now do application. So if you want to just log into applications, you can also do that. But let's talk about compliance, right? As Mareike mentioned, the most important part about any single privilege is how compliance. Our favorite one in cybersecurity. Anybody seen this? Anybody have to implement this anytime soon? Right? NIST, pain in the butt, right? Understanding it is one thing. Then you have to spend all this money implementing it. NIST is going to become a pain in the butt for any security because unlike NIST 1, where we had it, NIST 1 wasn't enforced. There was no fines. There was no fees. This one, I love the bottom line. Sanctions, same as GDPR, and they're heavy. So if you don't get compliant with NIST 2, it's going to be expensive. Second is DORA. Anybody ever heard of DORA? Yeah, DORA also has very big. But how does privilege and Delinea help with this? So if you look at this, we kind of broke it down into a few. These are some of the most popular ones in security, right? So if you look at it, you have password management, right? Any PAM vendor does this. We do this. Password management is easy. PAM's been around for years. It's not anything revolutionary. But zero trust principles. Now you start thinking, okay, what is actually zero trust principle? It's not a technology. It's a framework. So you have to understand that the framework has to be built in. But every company says, well, it's different. True, it is different. Least privilege. We're going to talk about that later. That's my favorite one. Software, hardware upgrades. That one is going to be a pain in the butt. Anybody run OT environments? You still run Windows 98? Because I've been to one OT and I saw Windows 98, I'm like, yeah, I was young at that time. Identity access management, right? Automation, application. The ones in green, we can help. That's more than 50% in cybersecurity. But that's not just PAM. That's every single solution put together. So a few products, I'm not going to talk about it, but if you think about it, the main quote out of NIT, if you look at it, cyber hygiene, I love that word. But the most one is password changes, limitation of administration level access accounts. So if you give somebody from PAM access to a server, they're going to have ADM account. They're going to have access to the full server. They're going to have access to the entire at that level. How do you do limitation levels? So that's one thing Mareike was showing in that demo is that we can start applying limitation because when she ran on Linux and Windows, we can set these users have limitations. They can't be admin. They can only do what we tell them to do or what we give them privilege to do. Can we really control every access to every person? Man, I love this question. So modern PAM, basically best practices. First one is trust, right? We've all seen this. We're in security. It's the hardest one. We have to create all the different trust. Verify who it is, right? MFA. We've seen this every single presentation. Contextual, right, requests. What is that? We have to know exactly where that person's logging in from. We have to do posture. We have to do everything. Make sure that the computers are clean. Security admin environment. We have to make sure that we separate OT, IT, admins, HR, sales, everybody. But the favorite one is grant least privilege. Again, we're going back to zero trust. Least privilege. How do you do least privilege on a standard PAM? It's difficult. You're going to give them SSH, you're going to give them RDP, they're going to access at sudo level, and that's it. They're done on Linux. On Windows, they have ADM. So who cares that the printer admin has access to Oracle database? It's okay. But least privilege means that we only give them access at that level. And most important, audit everything, adaptive control. We have to start learning from everything. This morning at the keynote is how do we learn from our mistakes? How do we keep moving and building better secure systems? And adaptive control allows us to basically build policies that constantly build better policies over years. It's never going to be perfect. Anybody know who this guy is? I knew. Sorry, yeah, but I didn't ask you to be here. No. This is why we have this problem in the world. It's because of this guy. So love him or hate him, this guy is basically the main problem. He created the first password in MIT that was digital password. We have now, what is it, requirements, 14, 16 character passwords? I love 8, but he was the first one to create it. So I don't like him because now I have so many passwords to my wife's bank accounts, to my bank accounts, every single one. But this is gonna take us to demo 2. Because what I'm gonna show right now, Mareike is actually gonna show, not me, because she's a smarter one. But she's gonna show us exactly what privilege, how do we control access on every single layer? How can we actually do this with privilege elevation at different aspects? So when we control layer, we control privilege based on who you are. Mareike, go ahead and show us that.
Yes, I will take you back to the platform, because I have prepared some other assets as well. So this time we will access a Windows server, and as you just said, I will show you how to control MFA at every level. So I took it further even. So when you remember when I logged into the solution, I had this MFA, the flexibility with the different methods. I can put this at login and also elevation. So I will just go ahead and I will enter it manually again. So now an RDP session opens, and yes, exactly. It's asking me to put in the second factor, and I'm lazy, so I'm going for the security question here, and we'll put it in. And I will hit enter. I don't know, I will never tell my secret. All right, so we are here on the Windows machine, and
Just got hacked.
I would quickly change it afterwards. Okay.
Very good.
All right, so I want to do some firewall management here. So I have MFA at that elevation level as well. So I will quickly show you. All right. So as you see, I cannot do anything. I need to right click and say run with privileges. And then it will ask me again. So this is kind of mix and match. In the platform, you have all those different MFA profiles and the policies. So for different user groups, you can put different MFA methods, basically. So yes, I will enter my password.
Right again.
Does anyone know the answer? Maybe I'm fooling you all. It's not the color. I don't know. Okay, as you can see, it opened up with privileges, and that's kind of how you do it. And this got recorded as well. So you control the privilege at every level. It's not about vaulting anymore. It's about the authorization, who can do what, basically, and you can stay compliant.
Don't close it for a second.
Okay.
Explain that setup offline MFA profile.
So we use an agent on this endpoint, and of course, if you lose connection, then you will still enforce the MFA profiles on the endpoint. So, yeah.
Number one question that I always get whenever I talk to customers, and this is new, this is brand new, so you guys are actually seeing something that is not officially even launched yet. So NDAs hopefully are in this room. No, of course, good. It's the beer later, everybody forgets. But that actually is something that's important, because everybody always says, okay, MFA is great, but we have MFA, right, Duo, we have Radius, we have all of this. But how do we do it when the internet's down? Can we actually do MFA at that point? What that actually is offline. You can actually click on that for a second. Click here to set up. Go ahead and click on that for me. I want to show this because this is actually one of my favorite ones. I show this to customers and it's not set up on this. Click next really quick. The administrator can set up options for offline. If your radius goes down, so basically building privilege is one thing, building authentication is another, building policies is one. But what's more important here is that when we build this, we want to build it so it's accessible. If your entire network goes down and you go physically to this server right now, you can actually connect it with YubiKey. You can set up offline. So you can set up YubiKey, scan barcode, manual entry. I like manual entry, right? But if you love YubiKeys, perfect. So what it allows you to do is that we can take this, and instead of having a full online dual or any single MFA, you can set up an offline one. So when your networks go down, and this will happen, this is exactly one of those. Now, question is, can we do the same thing on Linux and Unix?
Yes.
Exactly. This, the important thing is, right now we're not already talking about just Windows. We can actually bring the same control of privileges and MFA at every level on Windows, Unix, so Solaris, AIXs, and any Linux. Doesn't matter how old, unless you don't upgrade, then you're a compliance violation. But we can actually bring this completely on every single layer. So, thank you. And do we record this?
Sure.
Everything gets audited, everything gets recorded, so you get a full session. My favorite one is the little D at the top right-hand corner that you'll see there. Because you can take screenshots and disconnect and do all this stuff. Browserless access into environments at level that you want. That means your admins will have every access. The other thing is, and I'll talk about this later, but my favorite question is going to be next. Anybody disagree or agree? MFA actually work or not? MFA is a very important tool. But as anything in security, it is only a tool. It's only how good do you apply it. YubiKeys, of course, are probably one of the favorite ones but if you lose it, yeah, set up another backup. But MFAs, we showed something different here. It's not MFA doesn't work, it's how it's set up. MFA everywhere from Delinea is something different. It's no longer just log into the system or the portal. Right? You have a browser, you go to the bank, you have MFA. Great. MFA everywhere, it's cloud access. The portal, once you logged in, is one concept. Second one is servers. You can now extend that MFA or different MFA policy to the servers. So now you can approve that one. And you can mix and match this, which means we won't force it. If you want to give your CEO access to everything without MFA, fine by me. You want to give your SOC or NOC or help desk access to everything with MFA, or you want to do this only on weekends or after hours, it's your choice. But MFA everywhere is everything. Direct access to Linux, Unix machines, and basically everything gets connected. The concept is MFA does work, exactly, somewhat. But if it's only applied in the proper policy, it has to be applied how your compliance works from a zero trust point of view. So, my favorite one, right? We saw privilege elevation. But privilege elevation is exactly, it's MFA for Unix, Linux at every single layer. You want to run sudo commands on a bit for BSD, and I know you do, but that's basically what it is. If you want to do it after hours, and you want to force your engineers that after hours you have to have MFA to shut down services, or middle of the day, to make sure that some new junior admin doesn't type shutdown, or my favorite one, sudo rm-rf, right? Then you want to check, make sure that that person is who that person is. If somebody doesn't know what that means wipe the whole system. But that's exactly what it is. We're bringing it at every single layer to every single concept. Centralized MFA service integration. You have any third-party radius. You have, I don't know, Palo Altos, you have Cisco's, you have all those security ones that offer. You have Microsoft Azure, you have open source solutions. We integrate with every single one. YubiKeys, smart cards, that's not a problem. That MFA will work, so MFA has to be centrally organized. Flexible authentication. right? Smart cards, as you saw, all tokens, FIDO, anything you want, it's going to do it. But again, it's when you want to run those commands. You want to restart MySQL in the middle of the day, well, maybe you should check with your boss or verify it's actually who you are. That's the difference. MFA is only going to be as good as we in security implement it. Otherwise, it's not good. So, I know this is the last question, and there's going to be a lot in this one. And sorry, I keep walking back and forth to make sure I don't forget what I'm saying. How is Delinea changing the landscape? Well, first off, I don't like the word, we're a pen vendor. We're not a pen vendor. We are a security privilege vendor. That's the difference. This is an old circle, and it really is something old, but I love it. In security, there's really revolution, there is new innovation, but security should be always the same. Define it, discover everything, right? Biggest problem anybody in security has, we cannot see what's on our networks. Visibility into networks is the biggest issue in security. I remember when I was young, and I think I started in firewalls. This was layer 4, no next generation yet. I mean, it was too cool. But the first one started coming in, and all of a sudden I see next generation. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And we turn it on, and all of a sudden we see that 80% of people are watching Netflix at work. Yeah, I know why we have bandwidth issues. Network guys, what's going on? But discovery of security postures, discovery of everything on our networks is the #1 thing in security. If we don't know what's there, it's hard to define the policy. Manage and protect. That's exactly why we're here. We need to learn how to manage our security and how to protect it. Monitor, right? Record sessions. Every single thing Mareike was showing in the demos is being recorded. It's being audited. Why? Compliance, right? DORA, ISO certification. Anybody needs to do ISO? This will help because ISO requires you to audit every step of everything you do in your network. You can't, with my favorite one in NIST, you cannot turn on a VM machine in your environment without properly doing a change request anymore. And back then in the day, I would be like turning on 5 VMs. My boss wouldn't know for the weekend, so I can just try something. Nowadays, nope. It has to be audited at every layer. Abnormal usage, detect, right? We saw this today. Automation, AI. Everybody's talking about AI. And from keynote today was something good. AI is going to be good, and it's going to be bad. I see on LinkedIn, everybody's posting how AI is helping one person. It helps my wife a lot. She loves AI. She asks the question, who's smarter, and it always comes out me. But the concept is we need to be able to use AI to detect. Today, I just actually posted on my LinkedIn, Delinea launched the first AI integration into this platform. We don't have it yet. I wish we did. Actually, I think you actually do already. Yeah, she is
Yes,
smart.
I did it.
Yeah, she's smarter. We have AI now built into this. Why? It's a big deal because you want to help. Humans can only see so much. As good as IT admins anybody is, we can only see so much. AI is going to help us with this. It is going to hurt us also because it is going to make a few mistakes. Respond to incidents, integrations, SIMs, ticketing systems. All of this can be integrated with a ticket system. You want to elevate a privilege? Why don't we ask the SOC to make sure that this is actually right? So integrations with any logging system, through APIs, through native applications, however we need to do this, but integration is the key. And review and audit, right? At the end of the day, your boss is gonna go and check the recording and be like, let's see what Tomasz was doing all day. Oh, he was watching YouTube videos, no good. But that's what we're talking about. So Delinea limits privilege accounts. We unify the PAM policy, enforce MFA everywhere. Continuous monitoring, but again, least privilege, zero trust. That's the idea, is we cannot trust unless we build trust policies first. The framework has to be put together. I know Radek is in the back. If you don't know Radek, please meet him at the booth. He likes to talk about this. But Vault is not enough. PAM vaults are just not enough. Vaulting is great. It's still the core business to a lot. PAM basically is the #1, but it's not enough. Privilege elevation from Vault. What Mareike was showing, you can use the Vault to help you. You can take your root account, your sudo accounts, you can take those, lock them in a vault. It's like a good password. Don't ever use it again. Put it in there in case of emergency. Privilege elevation, build policy for individual users based on who you are is more important, because we can specify roles. Why do we have, I don't know, network security Wi-Fi teams? Why do we have firewall teams? Why do we have database teams? The reason we have all those teams is because they all have different jobs. They can't all do everything, except for jack of all trades, right? Then he's the one person you hire, he knows everything. But if you have that, that's our policies. We define roles. Why not define roles on servers? You have access to SQL, you have access to IIS, you have access to this. All of a sudden, Microsoft builds better systems. We limit the privilege. They can't move left, they can't move right. They define on who they are, and we audit everything. That's the difference. And audit everything, right? Hosting, host-based auditing. Every PAM records, every single one. There's no vendor out there I have not met. And like I said, I've been in this for a year. So last year I could not say this. This year I can. Every single one of our competitors will tell you they record. And that's great. They should. Delinea, because of the merger of Centrify and Thycotic from 2.5, 3 years ago, we have different recorders now based on what you need. You want to take screenshots? You want to do host-based, this is my favorite, by the way, because this one changes pixels, records only pixel changes. So when you do anything, it's very small recordings, everything is tiny. But we have different recorders for different use cases. So you control the outcome of what you want to audit. The second one, why I like this one, it logs every command that you do. So if you have, I don't know, 500 Windows servers, and you want to know what Tomasz did on your network because he's a contractor who logged in for 4 hours, billable, you can actually search that command, and it will query because we log everything. It's host-based auditing. That's why I like it. But again, goes back to visibility. We can build policies based on what we know is happening. And the topic for the last kind of discussion, so then we can all go to dinner, party tonight, and everything. What is least privilege? What is zero trust in PAM? And what is the difference? So my favorite line, ability to do what you need when you need to for the right amount of time. Any married guy will tell you that that's true because it doesn't exist. But in network, that is actually the true thing. The ability to do what you need when you need it for the amount of time. Our technology, you can build a policy. The policy says you have time only for the next 2 hours to run sudo or admin privileges. After 2 hours, we take that privilege away. So who here is a firewall expert or likes firewalls? Raise your hands. Nobody? No firewall? Ah, yes, I have one, yes. Okay. Best thing about firewall rules. I used to work in firewalls, and the best thing about firewalls is when you change ACLs, because you need to give somebody access, most of the time, that change request never goes back. You never remove that privileges. I used to go to customers, 6 months, year later, I show up, and that ACL is still there because there's no automation. We build automation into privilege. You want to give somebody full privilege to a server, after 2 hours, you can remove that privilege. Integration with SOC, integration with NOC. So what is least privilege and just enough time? Well, users and services can run at full admin as long as you want them. It reduces the full attack surface. So everything Microsoft is building from Keynote, we can actually now control on privilege on that server. So most of the time, it reduces the entire because they won't have ADM access except for when they need to. Most of the time, we don't sit on servers 24/7. When I used to be administrator, I would log in, and the most popular is right-click, run as admin, right? But you do that once in a while. Well, you're using an ADM account that has access. As soon as you turn that on, it has access to the whole server. Here, we limit it to only the services that you want. Just in time is my favorite. You have that junior guy who shows up and says, hey, boss, I need access to that service because I need to reboot my SQL. Something's wrong. We need to reboot it. Well, go ahead and do it. run it. And it says, you don't have privileges. Do you want to run it? Do you want to request? Yes. It triggers your automatic workflow ticket, integration with ServiceNow, Jira, whatever you want, and automatically everything gets tracked. He has access. As soon as he's done working, access is removed. So, zero trust or zero standing privilege. That's the key word. What is zero? It's least privilege and just in time. Something new, Delinea came up. I'm still getting used to it, but to me it's zero trust. And my favorite, don't work as root, don't work as admin. Why? It's dangerous, right? When I was young, first thing I did is log in as admin because why am I gonna keep doing right-click, run as admin, run as admin? Well, it's not good because we have passed the hash. We can run this on old systems. Yes, the new ones in the future, no, but believe me, another vulnerability will definitely be there. Supervise, do anything accounts, and as my favorite is, God accounts, right? Admins love God accounts. When you log into a new switch, firewall, anything, server, what's the first thing you do? Create a local account backdoor. Just in case that password expires when you go on vacation, you have a backdoor for yourself so you can log in. But that's very, very bad for the organization, and compliance will fail you. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. Mareike, thank you for the demo.
Thank you.
And are there any questions, first off? Yes, sir. Very good question. And for Delinea, both. We can do hybrid, we can do on-prem. What you saw, the GUI from the platform, that's cloud-based only. The entire actually services that are integrated with AD and everything, that's on-prem. You build how you want to. Of course, the portal, it's the same as VPN. You need an SSL, so it's gonna give you, but as soon as you access, everything is done on the back end inside your data center. No, it's not per function. So licensing is my favorite. As this man right here. But licensing is very unique because we actually are switching all the licensing. We have now created bundle licensing to include. So if you want this solution, it's one license. And basically it will give you the admin access and the server access, but most of the time, this solution is per host, per server. The traditional PAM is always gonna be per administrator that logs in, right? But we're switching all of that so it doesn't become confusing because right now it's here and there. Bundle solutions are the best because you buy and you have every single access. You just tell us you have 20 admins and 200 servers, that's it. You're welcome. Yes. We build solutions. Again, one thing in here is I didn't talk about products is because Delinea is changing is that we don't want to, my concept last year when I was here at this hotel was, I talked about a lot about the products. There's no more products. For us, it's all about the platform. It's all about the solution that we want to. Every customer is different. I have 28 countries in this profile and I never have heard one customer tell me exactly the same story. When I ask the first question is, what is your use case? That's how we build. We build a solution based on the use case that you want to solve. You want Linux access only? No problem. We'll build Linux access only for you. You want access for VPN-less access to remote access, for example, from kiosks, hotels, remote workers? Not a problem at all. We can do that too. So we build the solution based on what you need. Any other questions? Yes? Oh, no. Yes. Very good, and that's actually a very good question because my last statement is come and see us at the booth. We got a TV, and I will show you if you are interested. We actually just launched, this is roughly 25 days ago, and it works amazing. We can now actually do application also. So if you have application that you want access directly to some application, for example, you have contractors. You don't want to have them access to the whole server. You just want to be able to display, for example, MySQL or SQL or whatever, any kind of application, we can actually display that application alone. So in the browser, you will actually just get that direct. the next phase of this. So interesting enough, last time I was here, I talked about platform new because we launched this in January. I'm showing you stuff that is, some of it is coming in towards the end of this year again. But the reason that is, next phase is gonna be also, we're gonna do HTTPS. So if you want to launch access to your internal, I don't know, Splunk or HTTPS access to something that you have internally, you can actually do this directly from this access. Does this answer your question? Yes. Any other questions? Oh no. Mm-hmm. Yes, and this is actually one of the technologies so Centrify brought. If you've never seen Centrify, it's something they brought to the table. The technology, and I'll probably get shot for that, they call it AD bridging, but I don't like it. We actually, Centrify was one of the original founders in this that brought Linux, Unix integration, but they do it at the kernel level completely, and it's all kerbals. So it's exactly like AD. So if you want to connect everything to your Microsoft AD, imagine this. If you have 100 Linux, Unix servers, you have to create an account for the new admin on every single one individually. Why do we use AD? One account, access to everything, build policies. We basically can do that. The other thing we can do is push GPO policies, going back to compliance. You want to have compliance. Why do we do GPOs on Windows? For compliance, right? We use banners. My computer has a banner, I never knew why, but that's because of compliance. You want to do banners now, you can do it on Linux, so when you have auditors, you have everything, you can do basically push certificates. Anything that GPO can do on Windows, we can do this on Linux and Unix. So yeah, it's full integration, and it's not microservices, it is actually a full integration. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mareike.
Thank you very much.